Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. Okay, this story came up the other day. I was on vacation. I didn't read on it until now, but now I'm reading on it. The Republican Party in Colorado has petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court to take up the case of Colorado banning Donald Trump from the ballot. By doing this, by appealing the state court's ruling, the state court's ruling was going to expire on January 4th. Basically, on January 5th is when Colorado gets to decide who's going to be on the ballot. And by the Colorado GOP trying to bring this case to the Supreme Court, that's going to pause enacting this ruling, which means that most likely Trump's going to be on the ballot. Now, the things that can make a difference in this one, as I understand this article, is that if the Supreme Court makes a decision on this case, like let's say they're not going to review it, then Colorado can proceed forward. But if the Supreme Court decides that they are going to review it, well, then the matter is delayed indefinitely until the Supreme Court takes up the case. And now, most of the time we think if the Supreme Court's going to take this up, and I suspect they will, how quickly will they do it? Most of us would expect they would do it quickly because, we got an election this year and it'd be kind of nice to know if, Trump can be installed as president should he win the Electoral College. And, but what happens if they don't take it quickly? What if they're going to put it on the docket, but, they'll review it later? They could literally put it off until the end of the year, after the election's done. Doesn't do us a whole lot of good, does it? So let's look at the energy of the Colorado GOP and their appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. What's the energy going on around that? Entertainment purposes only. Okay, well, this is just the natural progression of what we were going to expect was going to happen anyways. It's not a surprise that somebody wants to bring this up to the Supreme Court. That's where it was going. We all saw this coming. Crossed with thinking that, you got two things here. They might be looking for a more generous result from the 6 conservatives on the U.S. Supreme Court than what they got from the Colorado Supreme Court. Now, mind you, in the Colorado Supreme Court, it was 4-3 saying that Trump could be removed from the ballot. But 2 of the people that voted no on this, it was purely for I forget what the term is here, procedural reasons. It's basically, of the 7 people, 6 of them agree that Trump was an insurrectionist and shouldn't be on the ballot. But 2 voted he should be on the ballot because of some procedural stuff. Not that they disagreed with the facts. So now, here we go. Kick it up to the Supreme Court. And here's the Supreme Court now getting to evaluate whether they're going to take this case, what they're going to do with this thing. What is the Supreme Court going to do with it? Pass judgment. Okay. Just like the election interference cases, 61 out of 62 cases were lost by Team Trump. Trump keeps losing court cases on election interference. And now with these insurrections, there's been judgments in Colorado saying he can't be on the ballot. Now, in Michigan, they say he can be on the ballot. So now you've got conflicting judgments, which, again, should force this thing to the Supreme Court. And you would think they would act on it in a expeditious manner. Current situation is Page of Wands. This case is moving forward. It's going to move forward. People with their ideas of what we should or should not do with Trump are going to be brought before the Supreme Court. Now, mind you, if this is Trump going to a land where there's a lot of sand and no extradition laws to the United States, That might speed up the expeditiousness of this trial. But, right now, let's just take this as folks are gearing up to bring their best arguments to Washington, D.C. This is a new and novel case. And, this is just something we've not had to deal with in the United States before. And, there's some concern that a misstep could plunge this country into darkness. But an insurrectionist is an insurrectionist. And what's interesting is that the folks that are making arguments against Trump being allowed to be on the ballot, or the folks supporting Trump being on the ballot, are making arguments that Congress or somebody like that has to say he's an insurrectionist. And that's not in the 14th Amendment anywhere. And they're saying that the president isn't an officer of the United States. The president is supposed to uphold the Constitution. That is effectively swearing an oath to it, isn't it? So, I guess stuff for the Supreme Court to work their way through on the intentions of our founding fathers. I wonder if that's a founding fathers card there. Lesson to be learned is the Queen of Cups. The Supreme Court has to be really careful how they review this and how they state their ruling, because not only democracy depends on it. Also, people's opinion of the Supreme Court is way down when asked, if they trust it or if they feel like it's an apolitical unit. Their polling numbers are horrific because, the polling number reflects what people are seeing, is that they're very partisan. And they have to put a lid maybe on their partisan politics to rule what's best for the country and what's in the Constitution. Heaven knows that the conservative members are originalists, or whatever stupid term they've come up with, basically saying they have to rule specifically on the black and white printing on the Constitution. Well, there you go. Time for justice to be served. Then read, if that's what you're going to say, then interpret what happened through the Constitution and rule accordingly. Yep, this is going to go to the Supreme Court. Absolutely, this is going to the Supreme Court. They will take this case. That I'm convinced. How are they going to rule on it? That's the next question. But I believe they will rule on it, if for no other reason, just to standardize what's going on with the various states. Because it doesn't make any sense from any candidate's point of view, Trump or non-Trump, that, Colorado says he's an insurrectionist and Wisconsin or Michigan says he's not. Either he is or he isn't. And the state courts should be able to agree on that. And if it's something as important as, running for the President of the United States in a nationwide election, then maybe the Supreme Court should weigh in and standardize things. Okay. Will the Supreme Court review this case in an expeditious manner? There's a nebulous term. Are they is the Supreme Court going to take this case and rule on it in a very fast manner by human time standards? And it's a problem when you start doing tarot and asking spirit about time in a plane where time doesn't exist. It's like talking with a blind person and asking them to define the color orange, I suppose. I don't know. Okay. How will the Supreme Court review this case expeditiously? What's the energy around that? Hanged Man. Well, certainly they're going to look at the case. I mean, this case is impacting everything. This is kind of what the Supreme Court's all about. This is not necessarily a speed card, but definitely they're looking at it. Now, I don't think it's going to be the willing sacrifice here. Lord knows that can happen. But I think they definitely are going to be taking a look on it. Evaluating when they're going to act. We're waiting for the ship to come in. I hate to think that this is waiting for orders to come in from those who own a Supreme Court justice or 5. Let's just assume that they're going to look at it because they see what's happening with the election coming up and they need to do something about it. Moving from troubled waters to calmer shores. And a lot of fighting and arguing and disappointment here. Honestly, okay. I tend to look at the positives of people and I see the good in them and the most optimistic scenarios. I'm trying to squelch that in this case because if I were to look at it in the most optimistic sense is that the Supreme Court knows they have to rule quickly on this one because there's a lot of turmoil going on. There's a lot of fighting and arguing and they've got this election to coming up and they need to do something. And regardless of what they do, they're going to disappoint people. So this would say, yes, they should go fast. That's me at my optimistic. And in my logical mind, I think that's what they should be doing. Honestly, though, I think what they're going to say is we need more time to review this case. We don't want to rush through this. We need to review this case and make sure, it's an unprecedented case. This is constitutional law. We need time to come up with a decision on this one. But we also need to act because there's too much turmoil going on in this election year with the election coming up. So what we're thinking we're going to do is punt. We are going to rule on this case, but we're going to rule on it in 20, I don't know how far down they can kick the can. If they could kick this can past the election, like into 2025, and make a ruling on it in 2025, that's what they'll do. That's kind of what I'm vibing from these cards. They're just going to say, you know what? We're just going to have this election and we're just going to do it and we'll deal with the constitutional consequences of it next year. But for right now, keep everything the way it is. We're just going to basically stay any appeals to the Supreme Court when it comes to Donald Trump and his candidacy. That's kind of what I'm getting from this. And I don't like that because to me, the Supreme Court needs to lead. And again, they're not going to please everybody. But for the good of the country and to stop the fighting and to, help the country move forward with the elections that are definitely coming up, they need to do something. I don't know if legally they can kick it down the road. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how these things work. I know that they can take cases and they can take expedited cases. And it would seem that this is a case that should be expedited. But I could also see where people behind some of the justices may not want an expedited ruling, or if they have to have an expedited ruling, they want that the Supreme Court to say that Donald Trump can be on the ballot. So I guess that's the question. I'll ask this last one for Carter. Will Donald Trump be on the ballot in all 50 states in the United States for the November 2024 election? Temperance, moving slowly, purifying slowly. To me, that's a yes card. Ace of Pentacles, Four of Pentacles, the Hermit, and the Drunken Hillbilly Brawl. Will he be on the ballot? I think so. but it's like he's barely holding on to his position on the ballot. There's a lot of money that's come in. I think, I hate to say that, a lot of money may have changed hands to help him stay on the ballot. Just barely holding on though. It's like, we have to do this. It's tradition. We need to have that the candidate on there because we don't know what to do. But again, I think this purification is kind of showing the detoxification, the integration. It's Donald Trump diminishing. He's on the ballot, but he's barely on the ballot. And, the court cases have started and he's diminishing. People are finding out about Trump. They're finding out about the money and a lot of money stuff that he did. It's going to be a wild election, and I hate saying that, but it's going to be just absolute chaos. We knew the 2020 election was going to be chaos because we were doing it during COVID, and Trump was already making noises about the election being stolen before it even happened and stuff like that. But this one, literally, the MAGA folks are going to be out there like their lives depend on it. And the reality, basically, think of it that way. The MAGA folks and the MAGA voters are going to be out in force because their reality depends on it. No Donald Trump, they no longer have their reality. Their reality comes crashing down. And use that as your motivation to get out and vote and get like-minded people out to vote. We cannot afford to be complacent in this election cycle. We just can't. There's too much at stake. Okay, so what do I think is going to happen? I think the Supreme Court will absolutely take up this case. Intellectually, I'm thinking they should rule on it quickly. Intuitively, I think they're going to do everything in their power to try and kick this can down the road. Or, if they can, and maybe you split the difference in that they agree to hear the case, but they're going to stay all laws or rulings that would take him off the ballot until they can listen to the case and give an opinion. I really think that's what's going to happen. And it's possible they give an opinion before the election, but yeah, turmoil, absolute turmoil. And that could be what the five of wands is, the drunken hillbilly brawl there, is maybe, in August, September, they rule that, Trump's an insurrectionist. He can't be on the ballot. He can't be put in the office of presidency. And then, all hell's going to break loose with the Republican Party because now all the ballots are printed with his name as their candidate. And then they're going to file lawsuits about how unfair it is. And, you're just giving the election to the Democrats and yada, yada, yada. You can see the chaos. You can see how how it's going to spin out. So it's almost like the Supreme Court's going to make a political decision to delay their ruling, leave Trump on the ballot, and then do the ruling afterwards. And then, just kick the can of chaos down the road to another year, hoping that Trump doesn't get elected so that they can make the ruling that he wouldn't have been eligible anyways. It's going to be an exhausting year. Anyways, that's my reading on this one. We'll see how it turns out. No, I could be completely wrong. I'd like to be wrong. But I'd like to be wrong with Donald Trump being kicked off the ballot. That's kind of how I want to be wrong on this one. But just because that's how I want to be wrong doesn't mean that's how it's going to pan out. Now, does it? Thank you for watching this channel. Thank you for supporting my channel. Thank you for watching this video, doing everything you do to feed the YouTube algorithm so my video makes it out to a wider audience. To new viewers, new subscribers, or even anybody who just recently found this channel, hey, glad you found us. Welcome to the channel. Hope you found this reading insightful, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.